Bienvenidos a todos. Welcome everyone. I am the Seamster. What am I doing today? Today I got to replace the front wheel hub bearings on my ODES 800 Dominator side by side. Yeah, it's cold outside, it's snowing, so I figure it's a good time to actually get this done before the spring gets here and the summer gets here when I want to play on that machine. I think it's very important that I do this video because there are no videos that are out there that explain how to replace the front wheel hub bearings. They're very vague on any side-by-side, so I'm going to go step by step. I know it might not help a lot of people that have maybe Polaris or Articats side-by-sides, but it may. So let's go, let's do this. If you haven't already subscribed or you're following me, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, follow me. I got a bunch of things that I do. Mostly it has to do with sewing or some type of fabric or screen printing or even HTV. So let's get this done, everybody. Come on. I've done this one already here, and it took me about an hour and 45 minutes. So I'm expecting this side right here to take me about an hour and 45 minutes, okay? If you've replaced car hub bearings before, you're not gonna have no problem with this right here. The problem with these side-by-sides is that the bearings are very, very small. They're tiny. And so this is a heavy machine. It's getting beat on, sand, dirt, mud, snow, all those things that we put these things through. So the wheel bearings, they need to somehow come up with something where it's like a car hub bearing. Because basically this is a car. They get up to 65 miles an hour, and that's a lot of heat for them little tiny bearings. Two of them come in a package, okay? If you have the ODES Dominator 800, or I think pretty much any ODES, you're going to be using, for the front bearings, it's going to be a 25-1733 is what will work for the front hub bearings for this utility vehicle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this video up, so I'm just doing a presentation at the very beginning right now, and then it's going to go right into actually the meat of it. So let me explain something. When you go to purchase a side-by-side, one of the things, if it's used, that you want to do is bring your own floor jack with you so that you can raise up the front of the vehicle or the rear end. It doesn't matter. Any one of these wheel bearings go bad, they're all bad. This is a bad hub bearing. Look at that. That's terrible. That's a nightmare right there. Should have replaced that a long time ago. Now, after it's replaced, or you go to purchase a brand new side-by-side, this is what it actually should be like. I'm moving the whole vehicle, okay? That is tight can be. Why? Because the bearings are brand new. Okay, guys, I guess I'm going to go ahead and start explaining this right now. I don't mean to say guys, I mean to say everybody, because there could be some women that are out there that can do this too, just as good as a guy. All right, so this main hub bearing nut is a 30. Now, if you can't get that and you don't have it, then run up to Auto Value or whatever your auto parts store, and they'll probably rent you a little kit. They'll put it on your credit card, and then you just bring it back. They'll give you the money back. All right, so take that off. There'll be a little cotter key also that runs through there. Make sure you get that off. Once that's off, you might as well go ahead and take off the two nuts that are on back of this brake assembly right here. I've already taken them off, and them ones are 13 millimeters. It's going to be all mixed up here, guys. You got American, you got metric. That's going to be on this ODES. These are 13s. So once them are off, them two right there, just go ahead and set that aside. I should strap that down, but I'm not going to. I can deal with it. The next thing, before that goes up there, you can see right here, this empty spot, that just holds this line right there. That's a 5/16, okay? Really tiny. 5/16, go ahead and pull that out of there so that line can easily slip up out of the way. Now, I was talking about the, once that's done, you might as well just go ahead and pull this brake disc right off and set that aside. All right, so we got that set aside out of the way. As you can see, this heat shield right there, that's going to come off. Forget what size that is. Let's take a look at that. And 10. Okay, 10 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and pop them off in a little bit. But I just wanted to explain to you guys real quick here about these ball joints. There's 3 of them. So 1, and then 2, and then 3. Okay, so you got the steering ball joint and the upper and lower ball joints. What makes this difficult and what makes this hard? First, pop off the cotter keys off of all 3 of them. Since you got them in your hand, the pliers, just go ahead and take all 3 out. 1, 2, and 3 of the cotter keys are gone. There they are, sitting down there. Next thing is go ahead and take your, what is that? Was it 18? Yeah, 18 millimeter socket with your impact electric gun. I'm suggesting if you don't have one of these little things, go get yourself one at Home Depot, Menards, or Lowe's for 59 bucks. These are a lifesaver when it comes to removing hub nuts, or when it comes to taking off the ball joint nuts. Because the one thing that you do not want to happen is you do not want this to start spinning inside, because it's all one piece. This ball runs right up into this right here, this joint, and this is all one piece. If that starts spinning, you're screwed. All right, so you want to get that nut off as fast as you can. And I suggest that you have yourself an impact gun, electric impact gun, so you can go ahead and get that done. All right, so that's that. So once you get that one off and the bottom one off, this other one here, just go ahead and leave that on, this the upper ball joint. Leave that one on for the temporary, just for the moment. Suggested, in order to get ball joints to come out of this sleeve here, is to hit here. Do not hit on the threads with the actual nut on it. You'll crush it. And do not hit the actual head of the ball joint, okay? Hit here. This will loosen anything up, and you can see I've already hit it and it's already loose, and the others will eventually work their way loose too. If you have some lubrication, you can spray underneath there. These got to get replaced. You can see them are pretty bad. So get some lubrication down there, some penetrating oil. All right. So let me go ahead and remove this one here, and then we'll work on this one once I slide this out, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, guys. So basically, what I did is I unhooked my shock, and you just want to go ahead and push that up and out of the way, and that was a 15 millimeter. Okay, take that nut off, push it through, and then push that up out of the way. The next thing that I told you about is removing the nut here on this steering ball joint, and you can go ahead and push that up out of the way. Also, remove the bottom one. Again, remember, never bang on the actual top of the ball joint on the arms, okay? So go ahead and bang on that, and then eventually, by doing that, that came down, okay? So as you see, the arm drops down. So the next thing that you want to do is, because the steering ball joint and the lower one is out, as you can see, this wants to slide out of the bearing. Go ahead and raise that up and set that axle out of the way. Okay, so there, it's set out of the way. Now take your block that I told you to have. This thing is probably measures close to about maybe a 1.5 foot, and that ain't gonna work. 2 blocks. Take 2 blocks and then stack that one on top of the other one. The reason why is because this upper ball joint is going to probably be a little tough if it's like the other side there. And what we want to do is we want to get that impact on there and get that off. So let's go ahead and get that off right now, because the cotter key is already off. And this is where you need to flex. Put that on. Be careful, because that thing will spin right off and hit you in the face, because it almost got me. Okay, so once that's on, there it goes. It just spun right off. Again, prop this up so that you're not hitting your brake line, because your brake line is just underneath there. You want it resting on the actual arm, okay? Again, you do not want to beat on the top. Only on the actual arm itself. Woo! That was a job. And be careful, because remember where your line actually, your top line for your brake line goes in this little hole. You do not want to mash on that, because you will smash that. This is very soft, okay? So once that's off, guess what? Hey, we got it. Now we just got to get these bearings out, okay? Okay, so now that we actually got that off, what you might want to do is go ahead and take your penetrating fluid and just go ahead and spray as much as you can around on both sides, okay? So that's what I did. So simply, get yourself a block, a 4x4 or a 4x6, either one, it doesn't matter, to work on, like a little bench. take your screwdriver, any sharp point screwdriver, and get it in between the actual metal and the rubber seal. Remember, these are junk, okay? Simply pound down in there and pry that rubber part right on out of there. And as you can see, you can look down in these bearings are shot. They are junk. There's all kinds of metal in there. There's mud and dirt caked in there. There's actually no grease at all. Again, turn it over and let's do the same thing on this side. Again, if we just pound down in there, and let's get that other seal right up out of there. All right, so again, peeled it right off. And look at that, that's just caked in junk, okay? Again, take your penetrating oil and let that set all the way around that bearing there. Take it the other side and do the same thing and just let that work its way in there all the way around. You'll see it actually almost looks like 3 bearings inside, but it's not. There's an actual spacer. It's like a brass spacer that's right in the middle between those two. And I'll show you those here in just a little bit. So now what you're going to need is you're going to need a punch of some sort. If you got a flat punch, because that is what's going to actually set on the edge, okay, of the outside bearing. Okay, so I'm going to try to punch this bearing out first. Okay, you cannot beat these things, okay, because there's like a lip inside of there, so you can't beat them through thinking, oh yeah, I'll just push both of them through that way. No, you cannot. There's a lip there, so it stops that from happening. That's what that little that fitting, that spacer is riding on right there. And you'll see that that's worn out too, okay, but that's another story. So go ahead and take your punch and just simply turn it again, go on the other side and punch that side. As you can see, I'm on an angle and that bearing is coming out. I can actually tell it's coming. So let's keep doing this, okay? Punch stuck in there, okay, that's okay. If you got a flat punch, that would probably work best. That's getting kind of tough, okay, because what's actually happening is that I'm getting space in between the bearing and that spacer. And you can see the actual bearing is coming out because now it's almost flush on the outside here. And this is going to happen. So again, if you have a flat punch, that's probably best. I think I'm hitting the wood on the other side, okay, which is okay. Okay, so I am. So once you get yourself to the actual wood side, you're going to want to take this to your vise now and set this inside the vise. And just keep punching that through. And then that bearing is going to pop out. And then simply just turn it over. And now you got a lot of space to work with. And take your punch again. And that center piece right there, that'll just come out too. Don't worry about it, guys. That can go in either way. And then simply just do the same thing on the other side with your vise. And pop that other bearing on each side and just work it out. It'll slide itself out. Because you can see it's already flush on the edge there. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'll come back with this all cleaned out. Okay, so clean it out really nice with some bright cleaner and get all this all cleaned up really nice and wipe it down and take some sandpaper if you can and go ahead and get any grime or grit that's in there also and then spray it down again and we'll show you how to put the new bearings in. See, now you take the bearing. See, I got one side already done just to speed the process up, but it's the same regardless, except all I'm doing now is I'm adding in that center piece right there. It's like a brass fitting. And I'm going to set that in there. And what I did is I put grease all the way on the outside of it. And then I just set it right in place. Okay. So now you take your actual bearing. It doesn't matter inside or outside. They're identical. Okay. On both sides. And you set that in place. And you just want to tap it in. And then take your old bearing. Clean it up the best that you can. Listen, dirt, mud, grease, grit, all that stuff is going to be getting in here. as soon as you take it out for its first ride. Clean it up the best you can, all right? You don't have to see it until the bearings are shining inside. And simply tap back and forth on each side. And let that bearing set itself in. The bearings actually kind of slide in pretty easy. And you're going to tell when it hits, because it's going to make more of a metal sound. There. That bearing is in place. So now we got to get this old bearing out. So that's where that punch is going to come in handy. Okay, so go ahead and set that down. And then take your punch, and again, you're going to get that on the outside lip of that old bearing. And then just work your way around on both sides of that old bearing. And that old bearing just pops right up out of there. Okay? So, these are actually set in there pretty tight. But what you can do is take that same flat punch and just, you can see it's still pretty solid, that sound right there. Now this rubber seal that goes on the outside, what I do is, I packed it full of grease, okay? Is it going to help? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it'll just hold more dirt and sand inside there so it'll wear the bearing out a little faster. But I figured I'd pack it, and because it's hollow, okay? Just a hollow rubber seal. And set that down. And just want to tap that in all the way around. Take that old bearing, set it evenly around it. Until that's a nice good fit on top of that bearing. And it's set inside, and it is. So, there it is, everybody. We got brand new bearings inside of this, and honestly, all we got to do now is just put everything back together the way that we took it apart. Do you remember that? Okay, everybody, I got everything back together again. All I did was just go in reverse the way that I took it off, so just be mindful of that. If you're watching this video, obviously, before you're doing the job, just be mindful of everything, of how you took it apart and in the order that you took it apart. If not, obviously you can just watch this video over again. Probably just a little side note, this part right here, this wheel assembly part where the actual disc brake is attached to, you're probably going to want to clean that up where it slides into that rubber part of the bearing. You'll see when you go to put this on the actual spline here, you'll slide that on and it'll actually fit into that rubber seal, okay? Go ahead and clean that up, and then put some grease on that, and then put some grease obviously on the rubber, both sides, the inner side and the outer side of that rubber, because it'll all just mesh together, and that grease just puts a good little bond in there so no water gets in there. But again, like I said, these bearings are going to go out just like that within 100 miles. I would say probably after 100 miles you might want to check your bearings, because the way that they design these things, you can see they're tiny. This is a lot of machine, regardless of your side-by-side, whatever you got, Polaris or Arctic, it doesn't matter. That's a lot of weight for these little bearings, and they should really do some advancements on making that. So if you're an actual engineer, why don't you just design something so that we can buy it as an aftermarket piece? We would pay for it, okay? So again, simple job. This job probably would have took me about an hour. I got to do my rears, and there is really hardly anything to the rear ends as far as, these ball joints are concerned, okay? So that's going to be actually, I'd say about an hour on each of those back there. But once you do one side and you get it down, everybody listen, it's going to be simple.